Warning: writing a quality novella takes a lot of time. Attempting to write a novella in one weekend is not the best idea. Binge writing, in addition to negatively affecting the quality of the words you produce, can also lead to burnout. Write at your own risk. After chugging an entire Red Bull, I got into my favorite writing position and got right to work. Seriously, I don't understand why I keep on trying to write on the beanie bag with the blanket. Every single time I do it, I fall asleep. Hello, writers. My name is Patrick Nyland, and this weekend I challenged myself to write an entire novella in one weekend. Why? Well, for one, you guys seem to love these crazy challenges, so here's another one. Speaking of, be sure to give me some recommendations on what writing challenge you'd like to see me do next. Anyway, aside from making content, one of the main reasons I decided to challenge myself to write a novella in a weekend this weekend was that I've always wanted to write a novella, but I never seem to have time. I'm already currently working on two major writing projects right now, and I really can't afford to pick up another one just to see if I like to write novellas. At the same time, since I consider myself to be an underwriter, I think it's a really good idea for me to try out novellas and see if they work better for my writing style. So starting Friday after class this weekend, I'm doing just that. One of the hardest parts of taking on these writing challenges is when I commit to the challenge only for my friends to come 10 minutes later and give me super fun plans for the weekend that I have to decline. Dude, the new Mexican place across the street is doing half off margaritas all night long. Dude, that's so awesome. Wait, I just challenged myself to write a novella in a weekend. I can't. You're the one that gets to decide the dates. Why don't you just do the challenge next weekend? You know that's not how it works. Once my brain commits, I have to do it. Well, I'm gonna head out. It won't be the same without you. So, how are the margaritas? On top of challenging myself to write an entire novella in one weekend, I also posted what I did on Wattpad. Because is it really a writing challenge if I don't post it on the internet for the world to see? Anyway, for those of you who don't know exactly what a novella is, it's basically a piece of fiction between a short story and a full-on novel. Different sources will give you different estimated lengths. Personally, I consider a novella to be anything between 17,000 words and 40, but it can be flexible there. That 40,000 word mark really interests me because a lot of my first drafts ends up around 40 to 50,000 words. So maybe instead of adding words to my rough drafts to make them novels, I should be subtracting them to make them novellas. Before I get into the actual writing part of this video, I want to talk a little bit about what I plan for this novella. On top of recently having a lot of interest in writing a novella, I've also had a lot of recent interest in concepts such as the heat death of the universe. Oh, you're like a nerd. You're just figuring that out now? The fact I make robots for fun didn't give that away? Rest in peace, Monkeybot. Your death will be avenged. For those of you who aren't celestial nerds like I am, the heat death of the universe is basically when the universe starts to die. As the universe continues to expand and expand, it's basically this theory that eventually everything will just go cold. No more stars will illuminate the night sky because they'll all burn out. Now, I know that sounds pretty scary, but don't worry, this is not happening in our lifetime. If it even does happen, it'll take billions and billions and billions of years. But recently, I've kind of wondered what it would be like if life was still existing around that time. I've kind of really been thinking of this idea of life fighting for the few remaining resources the world has left. So for this novella, I really want to tie those ideas together. In the past, these ideas have sometimes felt too big for me to almost comprehend, so I've avoided writing about them. So I think this is a perfect opportunity for me to take a chance. It's not a big commitment, it's one weekend, just do the best that I can. Going back to the logistics of this challenge, I'll consider a success if I write 17,000 words or more and they tell a complete story. Being realistic, if I'm going to get this challenge done, considering I only have one weekend, I'm going to have to stick to close to 17,000 words. I genuinely don't think it's possible for me to write 40,000 words in 2 days. I think that's going to be the hardest part of this challenge, at least going in, keeping the scope. I think another hard part is definitely going to be putting the words on the page, especially considering when it comes to big concepts like these, I sometimes struggle to write many words per hour. I find it much more challenging to write a scene about a stellar engine than I do writing a scene about two friends talking to each other. The second scene just comes way more naturally. Anyway, that's enough talk. Let's get to the actual challenge. For this writing challenge, I really tried to get as much writing done as early as possible. From past writing challenges, I've learned it's always better to get ahead than it is to chase. With these challenges, it's also just good to get in the writing groove as soon as possible. I don't know if you can tell, but my goal making this time lapse was to get the sun rising in the background while I was writing. It's not the clearest, especially with the light reflecting the window, but you can kind of see it, especially towards the end. I'm just noticing this now as I edit this video. I just continue to sink deeper and deeper into the beanbag chair as I continue to write. I know it's not that comfortable, but next time I just gotta sit at my desk. I get so much more done when I sit at my desk and I really focus. And look, now you can tell the sun is definitely out. And I'm out cold. Yeah, at this point, I was really trying to push myself to write a little more, but I was completely drained from writing all night long. Looking back, I probably would have been better off if I got up and went to my bed. That way I could have gotten a better quality sleep. That being said, this must have been a pretty decent sleep because when I did wake up around 1 on Saturday, I had a good little writing boost. My plan was to stay up and write for 24 hours straight, but in this case, I think my body was telling me what was best for me. The only thing that kind of sucked about this nap is I had drinking a can of Red Bull like 5 minutes earlier, so I kind of lost the energy boost I would have gotten there. Clearly, the caffeine didn't work. So I kicked off this challenge to write a novella in one weekend in a little bit of an interesting way compared to my other challenge videos. The creative writing club at my school, Binghamton University, actually had a challenge this Friday to see who could write the most words in 24 hours, so I joined that. I think being able to see other people's word counts as I went along really pushed me to push myself as hard as possible. That being said, I had no shot at winning. The winner wrote over 20,000 words in 24 hours, which is mind boggling to me. What the hell? I ended up writing 12,853, which isn't too bad, but I feel like I could have done a little better. I don't know, 24-hour writing challenges are rough. The one good thing about this challenge is I ultimately felt pretty tired last night, and I ended up getting some sleep, which is good because I still have a lot of words to write if I want this novella to be done. One of the things I did that I thought was pretty funny during the writing challenge was I got stuck writing my novella, and I decided to take a break and write a chapter of Welp Now What. If you don't know what Welp Now What is, it's a series of short stories. It's basically my challenge to write a short story every single week. All the stories follow the theme of they're about a world where an apocalypse is supposed to happen from an asteroid, and the asteroid suddenly vanishes, and it follows the events after the world doesn't end. But that's not the focus of this video. I pretty much talk about Welp Now What in every video. This video is about my novella, which at this point in time I have not titled yet. I will say the words I wrote during the challenge were not top tier, but I think they were pretty good. The one thing I'm really concerned about is the scope of what I'm writing. I'm currently around word 12,000 for the novella, and I'm realizing there's a decent amount of story I still have to tell. Which is concerning because that means I'm going to have to write more than the 17,000 words that makes a novella a novella. I know there are different definitions. I'm sticking with the 17,000 words. Considering I've never actively written a novella before this challenge, that's definitely a concern that I'm struggling with right now. It's not that I'm concerned I'm going to go over the word count limit. I'm more concerned I'm just not going to have enough time to write the rest of the story. Because at this point, it's 8:25 on Saturday, and I'm really beginning to feel fatigued. The one good thing is I don't have any homework this weekend, so I can focus all my efforts on writing my novella tomorrow. At least I think I don't have homework. I genuinely don't check most of the time. Mom and Dad, if you're watching this video, I swear I'm not a bad student. These vlogging sessions between my writing sessions are a bit time consuming, but to be honest, they really help me clear my head. Towards the end of that 24-hour writing challenge, I felt like my brain was bleeding. I need a nap and a shower. Have I eaten today? I ended up sleeping in on Sunday, and when I did wake up, I was pretty tired, but I wasn't going to give up, so I had to get writing. One of the things that helped me keep on putting words on the page on Sunday was seeing the finish line, thanks to how many words I wrote the day before. Still, I had to battle through this writing session. One of the things that was really difficult on Sunday was figuring out how I wanted to end this story when it became clear that the original ending I had in mind was not very feasible. I also tried to change up my writing position just to keep things fresh. Fortunately, as I reached the end of this writing session, everything began to come together. All I had to do now was tie up all the loose ends. So it's currently 10 o'clock on Sunday, and I basically completed my challenge to write a novella in a weekend. I say basically because my final word count is 15,257 words, which isn't exactly the length of a novella. Typically, a novella is between 17,000 to 40,000, but I don't think I can really add anything to the story without just watering it down, so I'm not going to. I definitely think if I wrote this again, I would write it with 2 point of views instead of one, and that would make it a larger story, but with what I have right now, this is a perfect length. I guess at the very least, you can say I wrote a novelette in a weekend, which is pretty good. For the record, I actually wrote more than 3,000 words today, too. I know yesterday I said I wrote around 12,000 words. That's true, but some of those words were for my entry for Welp Now What this week. In total, though, I wrote more than 17,000 words this weekend, which is incredible. To be honest, considering I wrote this novella in a weekend, I actually feel like I did a very good job. The title I ended up going with is The Children of the Devourer. I think that's a pretty cool title, to be honest. The novella I wrote this weekend will be linked in the caption below, so be sure to check it out. If you like futuristic sci-fi, I think you're really going to like this. Again, it deals with stellar engines, the heat death of the universe, fun stuff for sci-fi fans. I think one of the major weaknesses I have in the novella is there are points where the dialogue gets a little info dumpy. I won't lie, I info dumped here and there. I also feel like there are points where I expected the audience to know what different celestial objects are instead of giving them some sort of explanation. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. For example, there's a brown dwarf star in my story, but I don't explain what that is. I do the same with a white dwarf. That being said, for the longest time, I feel like I've been super intimidated to write a sci-fi story that includes some of these like futuristic sci-fi concepts, such as stellar engines, like that type of thing. And I have to say, after writing this story, I feel a lot more confident in my ability to do that. If I can create a story like this in 2 days, what can I do if I actually have a month where I have time to outline and edit and all those things? If you have never written a novella in your life, I highly recommend you give it a shot. One of the things I really enjoyed about writing this novella was the ability to focus on the main narrative throughout. If you're an underwriter like me, there's a good chance that a lot of your story ideas are better suited to be novellas. Speaking of, as I was writing this novella, I began to realize that my story Europa that I wrote in 1 week probably would work better as a novella. For those of you who don't know, Europa is the book I challenged myself to write in 1 week, and it comes out to about 54,000 words. As I look to do something with Europa in the future, I definitely might consider making it a novella. I feel like a lot of authors are afraid to touch novellas since a lot of people feel like they won't make as many sales. The way I think of it, your book will do better if it's in the proper form. Personally, I feel like it's better to write your idea in the form it's meant for. If it's meant to be a novella, write a novella. Don't write a book and try to force extra scenes in it to make it longer. And if you write a novella and you decide you don't like it, it's fine. You can go back to writing books. But at least now you know. That being said, if you do decide to write a novella, I would highly recommend you spend more than 2 days on it. This time frame was honestly a little rough. That's all I have for this video. If you do take the time to read The Children of the Devourer, be sure to let me know what you think. Your feedback with all these writing projects I do, even when it's really negative, is really helpful. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, I have a feeling you'll like this video too. It's the one where I wrote an entire book in a week. Finally, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss my next challenge video. Until next time, good luck in your writing journeys.